Page 57. This starts Cicero's account of this whole business, right? Drew's account, exactly right, Drew's account of this business with the, wow, okay. Well, there you have it. At any rate, we said before this guy Asconius he put together his account based on what kinds of stuff? Yeah. Cicero's speech, prosecution, court records, stuff like that. So, as we said before, he didn't really have a concern about whether Milo was guilty or innocent. He just was reporting what happened, right? Cicero, though, does. Obviously, he's been called in as the defender for Milo.
I have a question.
So somebody, yes.
How is Cicero never mind.
Are you sure?
No. Okay, so like how is Cicero able to like be like a valid person for this if he was like accused of doing stuff? Like his trial was this before the whole Cadillac thing happened?
Well, here's the deal here. If you waited to have a saint as your lawyer, then no one would ever be defended in court. Well, I said if you waited to have a saint as your lawyer, no one would be defended in court. I mean, he's human like anybody else, and certainly just because you yourself may have done something wrong doesn't mean you don't know the law. Or aren't able to mount a defense or a prosecution. And of course, Cicero would maintain that he didn't do anything wrong, actually, in the
But that's different from like now, because if you have a lawyer that like did something really bad.
Well,
like,
sure.
I watched an episode of SVU last night, and the guy like withheld information, and then like he like kept like doing that for the rest of his cases, and then like yeah.
Ethan, I just want to point out the fact that this is what you're missing by not being in the class. Is references to SVU.
What about Shore?
And Jersey Shore to elucidate a classical Latin text. No, you got a point, certainly. If you got a guy who has a reputation of not being honest or even breaking the law or so forth, obviously people aren't going to want to use him as an attorney. Certainly that would be true. Yeah.
Was this after before the whole like especially after he was
Let's make sure we got our timeline. Catalan.
I know the whole first part.
All right.
The victims and the
Cicero's exile.
Yeah, you know it.
Okay, so we were definitely after the Catalan.
Okay.
Okay, in fact, we're about a decade after.
It goes down.
Yeah.
It's
BC. It's BC. Yes.
Are you so Milo would never have like killed me if our trial got
Right. Somebody read the English at the top of page 70, if you would please, Ms. Neal.
The court trial of Milo began on 4 April 52 BC, and for the next 3 days, the testimony of various witnesses was heard in the open forum. On 8 April, the final day of the trial, the forum was under armed guard as the prosecution delivered its summations within the prescribed 2 hours. Cicero, in his summation, tried to disprove the prosecution's suspicion that Milo had murdered Clodius with premeditation. Despite the presence of soldiers, Clodius' supporters were so intimidating that Cicero was prevented from completing his speech.
Okay, so Cicero is giving the final defense of Milo, and sometimes the best defense, they say, is a good offense. So Cicero decides to defend Milo by attacking the dead Clodius. He says, actually, this was Clodius's fault from the beginning. Clodius was out there and had laid an ambush for poor Milo, and Milos was simply defending himself. So Cicero's going to push this self-defense sort of argument. We haven't read in Latin for a while. Somebody start off, if you would, please. Just read. We'll just go a sentence at a time. Patrick, read that first sentence, if you would, please. Oh, well, sure, yeah.
By intimidating, does that mean they were like heckling?
Physics, well, even worse than that. The physical presence of, it's basically like
Okay, gotcha.
that kind of thing. We got you. Yeah. Yes.
So yesterday, some people burned down like a government building when they cremated the body.
Yes.
Did they have any like punishment for that, or did that just happen?
That just happened.
Like,
Wait, what happened?
You
Like,
can't
no one.
make
It was
all
it was a mob situation where you're going to arrest.
Not real life.
You can't erase it.
Well, tried to put the fire out, and it was one of those deals. Okay, obviously this is out of hand, but the only thing they actually were bringing to trial was the murder itself. Good observation. Drew, you want to read?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, read that first sentence for us.
Interum cum spires Clodius, neque eam erat difficile spire, iter solemne legitimum necarationem ante diem
Tridecum.
calendas februaris Melone esse lanuarium ad flaminem prodendum erat dicator Manui Milo, Roma subito ipse profectus tradae est ut ante suum quod re intellectum est Maloni insidias caldo caret atque ita profectus est ut conventionem turbulentam in qua equis furor Dei severatus est quae illo ipse Dei habita est relinqueret quam nisi opera bacchanoris locum tempusque usit nunquam reliquisset.
Planete omnes! I asked him to read the first sentence, and he did.
That was a mouthful.
Yes, it was. Now, it takes you back to that Catilinarian speech, and especially that big sentence with all the nihils in it. And I think we used the term, we may have used the term back then. Yep. There it is. This kind of thing is called a periodic sentence. Just like if you look, you think about how many class periods you have during the school day. You think about how many periods of history there have been. That is simply a unit. That's why the mark, the dot, at the end of the sentence, the period that marks the end of a unit of thought. A periodic sentence has multiple units of thought. Lots and lots of subordinate clauses. Now, there was nobody better at this than Drew, Cicero, or Drew, or whoever. Okay, who is it really? Exactly. Cicero was a master at writing these kinds of sentences. They were just packed. They're difficult to do well, and I think we mentioned it before, because the difficulty for us is that it could easily turn into a what? Into a run-on sentence.
That sounds like a run-on.
And it almost sounds like run-on. If it's done well, it can really be quite a literary masterpiece.
I mean, it's not
All right.
a little overboard. Like,
So,
I think you could have split that up. Like maybe
the short of this whole thing is Clodius in line 1, Profectus est in line 5. That's the whole sentence. Clodius Profectus est. Clodius Profectus est.
Set out.
Set out. He takes him 10 lines to say Clodius set out.
Wait, what?
Basically,
Clodius set out. Clodius started out.
They all sending papers.
Well, exactly. Yeah, obviously Cicero was writing an essay, and it was for word count. So he beefed it up.
Paragraph essay.
He beefed it up a little bit. Exactly right. All right, so we've got to really go through this closely. Meanwhile, he says, interim, cum sciret Clodius. And I'm treat this as a causal. Because Clodius knew, and he doesn't even finish the sentence before he interrupts himself and has this little interjection. He says, Neque enim erat difficile scire, for it was not difficult to know. This was open information for anybody. He says, because Clodius knew, and it was not difficult to know, that there was an iter, that there was an iter,
Journey.
that there was a journey, blah, 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 for Milone, for Milo. So Cicero starts it off and he says, because Clodius knew, anybody could have known it, it was easy to know, that there was a journey for Milo, or another way of saying that is that Milo was taking a journey. What kind of journey? A solemne, customary, legitimum, totally legal, he had every right to do it, and in fact, necessarium journey. Ante diem tridecim calendas Februarius. 13 days before the calends of February. So that means back in mid-January.
So January 20th.
Because Clodius knew that there was this customary, he did it every year, perfectly legal and legitimate, he had a right to do it, and it was something he had to do, a necessary journey, 13 days before the calends of February, to where? To Lanuvium, ad flaminem prodendum. That's the exact same phrase that Asconius used. For the purpose of appointing a priest. Why? Quod, because he was the dictator Lanuvii. Because Milo was the leader of Lanuvium.
Wait,
Yes.
on the, if you like, on the last quiz that we took for the extra credit, if you said that, Milo was mayor-like,
Yes.
like a mayor-like figure,
Yeah.
does that count?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Elliot, see if you can actually zoom in on some of this. We always do this with this passage. Have you ever diagrammed sentences in an English class?
Yes, and they're annoying,
I think it's third grade.
So, elementary school maybe? You say yes?
yeah, middle school.
Middle school? Okay.
Doesn't mean.
You don't know what I mean by diagram. Okay. Diagramming a sentence is to really map it out. Quick example, all right? So you've got your simple sentence, okay? And you say, boy cried, all right? Now, you got more information in your sentence, all right? So you have the stupid boy cried. The stupid boy cried. Where did he cry? In room. Which room? His lonely. Right? So the stupid boy cried in his lonely room. Okay? So, well, because there's nobody else there, he has no friends. And we could go on and a diagram can get very complicated, but it's a way of seeing which parts of a sentence really relate to each other. Okay? So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this with this long sentence. Listen up. We're gonna do this with this long sentence. It's gonna be challenging for some of you. You need your homework out, and I would strongly encourage you to turn your grammar notes sideways, because this is gonna get long and complicated. So I would encourage you to turn it where? I'm sorry, I'm expecting him to return. I thought you were announcing something.
No. Jesus Christ.
Turn your paper sideways, because that's going to be more helpful to you. Okay? So, he starts off and he says, Clodius profectus est.
Set out.
Clodius set out. Right?
Should this be like
No.
the center?
Now, yeah, I'd say, well,
Or like
no, I would go toward the top. I would go toward the top because a lot of stuff's gonna be coming down.
You know what I mean, like in
And
the top
going
and the
up.
center?
So if anything, top and left. Top and left. right?
Top left.
Top and left. Now, Claudius set out. Well, when did that happen? He says it happened.
Sorry to interrupt, can I have Emma Burris real fast?
She's
not here.
She's not here.
Did you hand me this name? Someone, you're on this team.
Yeah.
They didn't give me enough money. I
Okay.
wanna make sure that,
He set out when or because he skiret. Because he knew what? I'm going to draw a line that doesn't go all the way through the other line. Because he knew there was an iter. He knew there was a journey. What kind of journey? What's he saying? Solemne?
Customary,
Get him?
necessary.
Necessary. A necessary journey. And he knew that this journey was for Milone. Was for Milo. Andrew.
What does that say underneath perfectus est, the little?
Cum skiret. There's a dividing line.
Oh, that's
Iter.
Oh.
Okay. Solemne legitimum necessarium Milone. And furthermore, when was this journey? It was ante
It was the 13th of February.
calendas.
13 days before February.
Okay? Februarias tridecade. Okay? Now, all of that is describing the iter. All that's describing the journey. Okay? And he has this aside, this little aside here about the knowing business. He says, it was known difficile scire. Okay? I'm sorry, ladies, are we amusing you?
Right.
You were crying? What's wrong? Janae, is something wrong?
No.
You crying?
You're scaring me. No, I'm not really crying.
Okay.
I just can't
Not
see.
sure
It's the one all the way on the
there's a
right.
particular need to cry or what was
Sticks
wrong.
down.
Calendas Februarum
He says it wasn't difficult to know any of this.
Big and bright.
Okay? Well, yeah, it's gonna. And if you don't match it all just in the same lines, just try to get it on there as best you can. Fit it on there. He was setting off on this journey, and it was a journey where? To Lanuvium. Okay, so we're really still coming off over here. It was a journey to Lanuvium. Why? Ad flaminem prodendum. To appoint a priest. Okay? All of that is just to describe the journey. And again, when you really map that stuff out like that, you really see the relationships among the words and what's going on there. Okay? Okay? Now, why was he appointing a priest?
Wait, can we hold on a second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because like, I wanna get, make sure I get.
Sure.
Mr. Perkins?
Yeah.
When after cum, what's the next one? That's diagonal.
Known.
Okay,
Difficile
known.
scire.
Okay.
Now, why was he going to appoint a priest? Why this appointing business?
Because he was.
Quote.
He's like the mayor-ish guy.
Because, right? Dictator. Because he was the mayor or the leader. That goes with the prodendum.
Is that February 8th?
Okay? 13 days before the calends of February.
So,
This part goes right here with the prodendum because it's explaining why he was appointing a priest, because he was the dictator. And what kind of dictator? He was the dictator la nui. Yes, Margaret. Particular esquire, yes. It is the line that goes all the way through here. Okay? Because of all that, he, Clodius, set out. Now, we're back up to this part again. How did he set out? He set out subito. Not just quickly, suddenly. He set out suddenly. Where did he set out? He set out Roma, which is in the ablative case. Not to Rome, from Rome. Okay, subito is suddenly. So now we're talking about more of this action here. What we know about his setting out. He set out suddenly, and he set out not to Rome.
From Rome.
He set out from Rome suddenly. Okay? Why did he set out suddenly? Well, he set out suddenly, ut ante suum fundum blah blah blah, collocaret. Ut collocaret. He set out so that he might collocaret. Synonym for ponere. Arrange or put or set up, yes.
Can I use the bathroom as an emergency?
Take the pass.
Is that odd or thought?
I don't have it, but take the pass, it's right up here.
Is that at, Aloe?
Ut. And the other thing, folks, you can get the words right out of the book. Ut from line 5 and collocaret from line 6. Yeah, Emma. I'm just trying to keep, this has no purpose. I'm just trying to keep so it's not all one color running together for you. Yeah, there's no purpose. So that he might collocaret. So that he might put or set up insidios. An ambush. Clodius set out, when he knew about all this stuff, suddenly from Rome, so that he might set up an ambush. Real quickly, was there anything about that in Asconius' account?
No.
No. Matter of fact, according to Asconius' account, Milo was the one headed south. Clodius was actually headed back north toward Rome. Cicero has him leaving from Rome, and for a very particular reason. Margaret, if you need to, sure. So he might set up an ambush. Where? Where is this ambush? This ambush is ante fundum, in front of his farm. So Cicero is alleging that Clodius, or Eric, deliberately went out from Rome so that he could set up an ambush right near where he, Clodius, or Eric, had a farm. So he would have the home court advantage, if you will, right? This is his area. He's going to set up an ambush so that when Milo comes walking by, he can jump out and get it. Yes?
So, like, the other guy's account, not Cicero's, he said that they were just, like, he said that he had already done the thing of appointing the priest, and then he was coming back, right?
Actually, Clodius had already done the thing of addressing the town council. Milo, he does say, was headed south to Lanuvium to appoint a priest.
Oh, okay.
That detail they
Okay.
agree on. Let's continue. Let's continue. Okay? Atque, and in line 6, he profectus est, so he repeats the verb. He says, and he profectus est, and he set out ita. So, or in such a way, ut, That. So we find out, I'm just gonna draw this line from Perfectus Est out because I need some more space. He set out in such a way that he contionem turbulentum blah 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 relinquit. How did he set out? He set out eta in such a way, in such a way that he relinquiret, that he relinquished. What's relinquish mean? He gave up or left behind what? A contionem. Left behind a contionem.
I was confused about that.
Okay? Well, contionis feminine
Yes. What?
is, yep,
It's like escort, I guess.
no. Contio is an assembly. Contio is an assembly. It's a meeting. It's a meeting. It's like a council meeting. He says that Clodius set out from Rome in such a way that he left his meeting. So apparently Clodius, according to Cicero, was in some kind of a meeting in Rome, and he just got up and left. But what kind of a meeting was it? It was a turbulentum meeting. It was a rowdy meeting. Here's where we get turbulent, indeed.
Is that where you get hair turbans?
It is not.
Oh, it's too bad, I really like hair.
There's really no connection. He says he left this rowdy meeting. You could call it a raucous caucus, I suppose.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yes,
easy.
he did.
Easy.
There you go. It was a raucous caucus. He left this rowdy meeting, he says. What kind of rowdy meeting was this? What was a rowdy meeting? In which his furor,
What?
in which his furor, in which his madness, he was an absolute nut job, was desideratus,
Desire.
was desired. He says Clodius left this wild, rowdy meeting where there's a bunch of people like him. They liked Clodius there. They thought he was their kind of guy because Clodius was an absolute nut job. And he left Rome in such a way, or he set out from Rome in such a way, that he left this meeting, a meeting quae, which was being habita, held on illo ipso die, on that very day. Okay? Now, at this point, we're going to stop it because we simply run out of room. You don't have any more room on your paper either. It was a meeting which was being held on that very day, and it was a meeting quam, which, says Cicero, he nunquam would have reliquisset. Never would have left Nisi unless he valuisset, wished for or wanted to obira, to go to the locum and the tempus of a facinoris, of a crime. Now, I want to talk about the language here, but I want to talk about the logic as well, because they're both twisted. All right.
Just kind of say the entire sentence.
Absolutely,
Oh, no.
absolutely will. But just taking a look at this, obviously there's part after part after part after part. What you would expect in a speech. Now later on, after we get back after Thanksgiving, you're going to read two other kinds of writings by Cicero. You're going to read some personal letters. They don't read like this at all. You're going to read some of his philosophy, and it doesn't necessarily read like this, because those are different types of writing. Okay? You change your style for your content. Meanwhile, because Clodius knew, and it was not difficult to know, that there was a customary, legitimate, necessary journey 13 days before the calends of February for Milo toward Lanuvium for the purpose of appointing a priest, because Milo was the dictator of Lanuvium, from Rome, he himself suddenly set out on the day before, so that he might set up an ambush for Milo, which was proved in the eventual case. And he set out in such a way that this rowdy meeting in which his insanity was desired, and which was being held on that very day, he left. Which, unless he wanted to be at the place and time of a crime, he never would have done.
Sounds like an ad-lib.
Okay? Well, I gotta say this, if you could ad-lib that, you're pretty
Or a
good.
mad-lib.
Or Mad-lib, okay,
Yeah, that's what I was
Mad-lib.
thinking.
Yeah, cause I gonna say, I don't think you make that stuff up off the top of your head. That stuff is
Next
next level
level
speech, you know?
elevation.
Well, I just talked for a while here and you got all this subordination.
Especially since it's different.
No. So, let me get this straight. You, Clodius, you up here.
Am I gonna get high a third time?
No, just stand there. Just stand there.
Hey, I'm just being historically
Okay.
accurate.
Now,
You just know that.
now here's the deal. Here's Clodius. Actually, lie down before.
Yeah, so you're
Yes.
You're dead. You're dead. So here's Clodius, dead at the scene of a crime. Obviously, it's crimes and murder and everything. But this is good. We need to get a chalk outline going.
Bum, bum.
So anyway,
Why is he switching?
well,
Stop moving.
there's still a little bit of electricity left in the body. You
It's
know.
like a bug.
Here, dude, let me just crush the last little bit of life out of him. So,
It's like a bug, you know.
so there he is. Right, so he's dead. He's at the scene of a crime. And Cicero's argument. Listen, Cicero's argument is obviously this dead guy started it
Reasonable.
because he wasn't back in Rome. That's his logic. Obviously, the dead guy started it because he wasn't back in Rome. Because back in Rome, there was this crazy, wild meeting going on, and we all know what a criminal this guy is. He never would have left such a wild, crazy meeting if he didn't want to be somewhere doing something bad. So obviously, he must be guilty.
Wait, did he actually say that?
That's what he just said. That's what the sentence we just
Like, that's so
fought our way
vague.
through.
I'm
No,
really
it's not
curious
just
about
vague.
the rock
No, it's not just
and
vague,
Scorpius.
but it's twisted logic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. Yes.
Wait, yeah.
Go ahead, Eric. And plauditate on this. Thank you. Eric, this is one of our goals. You may not. Go back to your seat.
I think he was just going to
Did you taste the erosion?
No, he's so twisted and he's not even really dead.
Yes.
I am the undead.
Margaret. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because A, these are not the droids you're looking for. Cicero doesn't want you to think about that. And B, Milo is going to paint a different picture of it. So we kind of have to hold off a little bit on that because he's going to paint a very different picture of Milo setting out.
What if he pictures a different picture? And Clodius is considered crazy in Rome, and Milo was coming from Rome, but wasn't crazy. Isn't that contradictory itself? But no,
Yes.
maybe it's like
Yes. Yes. Patrick.
I'm just wondering, like, in Roman court, what would have been, like, the boundaries of, like, a logical argument? Because I know this is, like, twisted logic, but could someone go...
Cicero has the famous expression. It doesn't matter if the other side actually has the bloody dagger. If I can throw enough sand in the jury's face, I can win the case.
Did he actually say that?
He did. So,
Ooh, that's a good quote.
it is a good quote, and it's accurate today,
Yeah.
right? I mean, on the one hand, we have law, there are logical arguments, and sometimes still that doesn't seem to be what prevails. And so, does the other side maybe try to expose that? Sure. That guy's making stuff up, or he's using bad logic. You expose that, you try to bring that out. But at the end of the day, what is it that actually sways a jury?
Their decision.
The Cicero knew full well that sometimes it could be playing on their emotions or concocting enough of a story that they go with it. Yeah, Emily.
So did anyone like catch on and like point out Cicero's bad logic, or did everyone kind of go along with it because he's Cicero?
I didn't
Yeah.
erase this, I'm glad I didn't, because we could have kept on going. If you were sitting through this when it was being delivered live, do you think you would have even really caught the twisted logic?
No, you're waiting for the verb.
Well, you're going, when is he gonna get to the verb, right? I mean, you're caught up in this forest of words and and I have no idea, I'll never know. But is that part of the reason for his style?
Yes.
You gotta wonder, now you gotta wonder, but in that forest of words, good grief,
Good night, nerd.
how can you keep track of anything? By the end, I mean, you're honestly, you're word drunk. I mean, you're just like, I really don't know
I
what
certainly
it
was
was.
just reading it.
Well, you're right, yeah.
This would be like a C on the page.
This would be
It would be a what?
It's gonna be like an A.
They want you to be concise,
I
don't
get a
they?
C on each.
Right.
Needs more clarity on that.
More clarity. There you go. Elliot, if that hasn't already run out, go ahead and stop that now for us. Thank you.
Bye. Now we're gonna talk about
All right.
it.